Hello everyone and welcome to our next developer vlog for our indie game Kingsblood. So at the start of this vlog I would like to talk to you about how we plan to structure our animations. So this was the focus of our last week and we had a lot of conceptual talks because how we used to structure our animations was that for every character we pretty much had an individual animator, so that is what you see right here. So for instance we had the character Rayo and he had his own animator, and if you clicked on him you see he had his own idle animations and he had his own attack animations. Could do it like that. You could create, if you have 100 characters, you could create 100 animators. That could work. But we very quickly realized that this messes up your project really by a lot because you have so many files and they all are named differently, and if you don't take care you change an animation in one animator and instead of the other one. So we said no, we don't actually want to have that. We want to have it more all a little bit more clean. So what we created was we created a new animator, and this is our, let's call it generic animator. And this should count at least for all humanoids, right? Or probably for all creatures, I guess. What animations can actually happen? So usually you start a fight and you're idle. Then from this state you can get into two other, let's call it permanent states or looped states. One of those loop states is if you walk. So you walk, and it's not like an attack where you have a start and an end, but you do it forever until you reach your destination. The other state which we set up is if you get stunned. So we want to have that in combat. For instance, you channel an ability and someone comes to you and stuns you, and then you're knocked out for a couple of seconds. And I can show you this animation if you want. So we already have one. Then you will look a bit drowsy or dazed in the end. And aside from that, every character will get a special attack. So this does not necessarily mean it will be an act of aggression. It can also be that a character summons a shield or casts a healing spell. So this will happen if the focus bar basically looks like a mana bar. When it fills over the combat, and when you reach the limit, you will cast your special attack. And we will also give the player the ability to wait with the special attack until he wants to trigger it. So you as a player can choose if you want to do it automatically or manually. But if you reach this full level of focus, your characters will spawn a special attack. I can show you one of these special attacks in a little bit as well. So we have our first one. Then, of course, we want our characters to have attacks. And we don't only want to have your character to always do the same attack animation, but what we currently plan is that you have a set of attack animations, so it will be an array of attacks, and then the animator will, or the script behind the animator will choose a random attack that you will have like combinations like that or that. And maybe we have to do a little bit of planning right here. In my opinion, it should just be random attacks. Dominic, for instance, suggested it would be cool if we had more or less combinations in a set order, but we have to decide about that. Then what we brought in recently is critical attacks. So if you do a critical strike, it should look cool, right? It should not be a normal attack and then it does double the damage. So we will have some special animations also for the critical strikes, or at least we want to give the option. And the critical strikes are already in game, just not the animations. But in the combat system, critical strikes work now. I will show it to you also in a little bit. And then of course you will have death state. If you die, then you will lie on the ground and not move anymore. So these are all the animations which we plan for our characters. Now I can show you a little bit how this all will look like. For instance, here we have our character Rayo, right? And of course everything will get polished. So this is what we plan for him at the moment. So when his focus bar fills, he will do the following. Let's see. he will whirl his staff, and then he will do an attack and trigger a critical strike. So while he whirls the staff, his dodge rate will increase to 100%. So he will be a frontliner and can absorb some damage without really getting injured. So this will be his special attack at the moment. Now it does not look too funky. What we also plan on doing is that for these kind of attacks we want to add particles and special effects. I can show you an example where we already experimented a bit with it. So you see in this attack animation, you see this little lamp, and it indicates that we applied particles to this attack. Unfortunately, in that window, I cannot show it to you yet. It works, but I forgot how it works. I will show you how it looks in combat later on. Now, we had a lot more discussions about how we handle animations and combat. So this was, like I said, our main focus the last week, and it is still very hard to set everything in stone. Also, I have to say, I think if we manage to do it, pretty much, I think we have cracked the hardest nut of our game. I think the rest, we can do all of the rest. But if we crack this one nut, I think we're really ready to go, and everything will be much easier. But what I wanted to say is we talked a lot about other stuff in relation to combat and to animations. For instance, attack speed. How should it work? And we had tons of discussions. Do we want to have an attack always in a timeline of 30 frames? That would be kind of hard, to be honest, because maybe someone with an axe will have an animation of 40 frames, someone with a stick of 60 frames. It's not probably the best idea to try to make every animation exactly the same time. So what we currently plan is that an animation has its playtime, however the animator sets it up. For instance, this guy right here has, I don't know, so we can count the frames. I think it's a bit over 30 frames, right? Another one has 20 frames. But then what we will do is we will give them fairly low attack speed at the beginning, and then they attack, and after the attack stops, they will fall into an idle animation. So it will look something like that. Attack and then idle animation, right? And then next attack, idle animation. So now if his attack speed rises, or her attack speed rises, these pauses in between will be shorter. And at some time when you basically don't have any pause anymore, then the attack itself will be sped up. So at the start, the attacks will be at the same speed, the regular speed, how the animation is supposed to look. But of course, in our game, since we work with so many buffs, you can get items, synergies, and a lot of those can affect the attack speed. And if you have a lot of attack speed, at some point it won't look like that anymore, right? But it will look probably more like that, right? So this is how we want it to have at the moment. What you will see when I show you the combat is that it is currently a little bit bugged, because our attacks are, I think, set to 1 second, and for a lot of our attacks you will see that they just break in the middle. So I can only show you a work in progress later on, but that's it. Let's go back to the animator. I told you that we now have this animator, and maybe the question is not answered yet, why we only will need probably one animator and not countless different ones. For instance, if we have some guy with a dagger, his attack animation would be right here. How do we do it that, for instance, someone with a shield and a club does not play the dagger animation, but he should play the shield and club animation? And we actually do it with scripting. So basically what we have in the background is, once again, a JSON file. And for instance here, for Holdor, we define that when he attacks, he uses a shield attack. And all this works currently for the attack animations. It does not work for the idle animations, and it does not work for the walk animations or all the other animations. So when I show you the combat system, and I think I'll do it right now, it will look a bit weird, right? Also, just as a side note, we fixed some stuff about the problems in the last video, that characters were sliding around Um, this has something to do with root motion, that's what it's called, and we had to bake some bones into the animation, stuff like that, but doesn't matter too much yet. Okay, let's go. So you see the weapons are hanging around because we don't have their actual the animations they need. So for instance, this guy with the shield now has the X idle animation applied, so his shield and club, they hang just around. But in terms of attacks, they actually play the correct ones. Let's mute the audio now and let's rewatch it. You will see that the guys actually play the animations they are supposed to play. So let's see, for instance, you see the X guy, he attacks with his X. It always ends too early, right? Also, the archers, they grab the arrow and then it ends, because that's what I said, we have a fixed value of 1 right now. But this is just something we have to fix, and then they should all play the correct attack animation. And of course, we have to do the similar process for the idle animation and the walk animation, and then hopefully our system is robust enough that we can call it done. I anticipated that it will take us probably 2 or 3 more weeks, maybe even longer, but then we have to figure out how we do it with the effects properly, with the particle effects. And then I think we have really set up something really cool and really robust, and I think we're good to go to create all the animations for all our combat. Also, you probably saw that if people fight, sometimes these little miss or critical hit signs appear, and these are not just placeholders. This actually indicates that a critical hit happened. Alright, I talked a lot now about animations at combat, and now let's jump into our main scene, because there some stuff changed as well. And here we are, good old Arthenia. We can send out a group. Alright, because everything you saw within the combat scene also works on the main scene, of course, because all these scenes are connected. Let's go with these 3, and I just wanted to show you that the last time our group had to fight skeletons, and this time the wolves, the skeletons which were supposed to be wolves are now indeed wolves. So let's see. Also, the animation of the wolves are not working 100% properly yet, but I mean, looks kind of okay. Alright, and here for Ayu you actually see our particle effect, right? The thing you couldn't see before, you see right here. It's not perfect yet, but we want to have like a trail. Maybe you know it from combat systems. We want to go all out with the effects. Yeah, but that's it. Okay, I want to show you something. For that I probably, I'm not only doing it randomly. Oh, sorry. Let me create something, for instance a guild hall. Alright, because the thing I wanted to show you on the world map will appear in a little bit. Alright. Oh shit, something happened. And unfortunately my head is blocking it, but you can see now we have 2 notifications. So this is our newest system. So if an event in your game happens, for instance, you finish a building, like in this case, then you get a notification that your guild hall has been completed. And I think this will become very important the more stuff we add. For instance, if you lose in a combat, your group will not die, they will just be injured. And then they have to heal up so that you can send them on new missions. And then maybe you want to know when is my hero healed up so that I can send him to a new mission. But also events will occur as well. For instance, we will have a research tree. Your research is done, and it would be very annoying if you would have to check every turn, is the research still running, stuff like that. So you will get informed when the research is done, that you know, okay, I have to select a new research and change it in the science tree. At the moment we only have 2 of these kind of notifications. You can just click them away. If you have a lot of notifications, I cannot show it to you yet, but if you have more than 5, we have like a sliding window right here, which looks also kind of cool. Now we only have two, we can click them away with a right click. And here we have a new event, which you don't know yet. And this is, oh, an invasion is pending. There is an invasion heading on your way. Prepare to defend yourself in turn 10. So this is actually our losing condition. How it will play out throughout the game, there will be situations where, for instance, one of your characters will shout, oh my god, we will get attacked in 5 turns, be ready. And if you're not ready and these monsters come to your base and you're not there, game will be over. On the world map, maybe we will change the visuals a little bit. You will see this invasion right here, and then it will walk towards you. You will have to have people at your base who actually are there to defend you. If you don't have enough defenders at home, game is over, it is lost. And now we went all out for a bit. So now now maybe we overdid it here a little bit, but Dominic made a little script and it spawns one invasion after another. Okay, now you see, now we have so many notifications and we could create it all over the full size of the screen. We actually changed it so that you have these little arrows and then you can click through the notifications. All right, and I told you that usually they should not just appear, but someone from your group, because we are very story heavy and we like dialogues, should say, oh my god, a group of orcs is coming, okay? And for that, we have a dialogue system. Talked about it a lot of times, and let me show you how we handled this in the past. So in the past, we had this dialogue file right here. And all right, so this is how I created all the dialogues, and I had to do everything manually, so to say. For instance, I had to say the current dialogue is dialogue number 10,016, so the next dialogue has to be number 10,017, and the more dialogues we created, the more messed up it got. And now this week, Andy sat down and said we need some tooling for it. He created it with in Python. So what we can do right now, here we have a little environment in Jupyter Lab. And what we can do right now is we can convert this JSON file, which, so to say, is computer readable, and we can convert this file into an Excel file. And in this Excel file, it is actually very easy to edit the dialogues. And if we, for instance, change the ordering, the script will automatically, for instance, change also the IDs. And then if we, for instance, write the text here, we can also reconvert it into JSON. So this is kind of cool, really helpful tool. Maybe you know that, but or maybe you don't know it, but we want to create voice acting for at least the main storyline, and I think for pretty much most dialogues, maybe aside from the city quests, which would be an impossible task, I guess, because there are so many cities and so many city quests. But for the main dialogues, we want to have voice actors. And so what this tool also can do is, for instance, you can say, I want to create voice lines for a specific actor, for instance, for Alra, and then you can just export it and give it to the voice actor. And he does not have to read through all text, but he can just voice his individual lines. So these are just some of the toolings which were also created in the last week. So in general, I can summarize that I think it is kind of cool what we created the last week, but it's probably not that visual, not cool stuff for the video, but I think it is still a lot of cool progress and is really helpful for us. And like I said, we are really busy with cracking this big and hard nut, which is the combat system and animations. And if you saw my first video, I gave this project probably a 5% success rate. Currently, I would say it's a lot higher. I'm not saying a number. Don't want anyone to quote me if we, against my current anticipation, fail. Yeah, but I'm really optimistic how everything keeps going and everything gets a cool dynamic. And yeah, I'm already curious what we can show you next week. So with that having said, goodbye and hopefully see you next week.